As I sit here reclined in my father's chair, glorifying in the heat of the log burner, it is time to contemplate events of recent times. And there are two things that have come to pass. Well, three. The first is attendances at the shows I've been to in the last couple of months have been down. And I kind of understand it's the costs. Times are hard, and there's no need for politics to come into it because times were hard before this government, and there's times are hard with this government. I don't think that is a factor in it. It is just times are hard. And I noticed that, several of the small traders are struggling a little bit. Now, thing I would say about these local shows is that there are several factors to these. One, the local shows, the smaller shows, aren't just a place where a few fellas show off their model railways. The smaller clubs often rely on their annual show to fund their upkeep. They have to pay for their accommodation, where the layouts are stored and used, where their clubhouses. They also have the exhibition itself to pay for. And it is a big annual event. It is like their AGM. It is their big event of the year. And they do their level best to avoid clashing with other events, either in the area or nationally, where possible. And for small traders, the small local shows are the opportunity to pick up some sales when they go to the big shows. And some small traders like us, we go to one of the really big shows, a few medium-sized shows, and some local small shows. And the reason for that is that the big show is a big expenditure. It's a big chunk of our, it's a big chunk to spend out on. And if you go there and you happen to be at the same time as one of the big stack 'em high and sell 'em cheap merchants are selling at a particular bargain, then you're going to struggle unless you've got something a bit different. We're quite lucky because with the 3D printed stuff, if you're looking for what we do, you'll only find it with us. You know what I mean? And also, we do Rapido locomotives, but we don't tend to compete so much with the big boys because we sell the extra value packs with the locomotives, and the wagons, people tend to be looking for a specific wagon, and they will go from store to store to store till they find the one they're looking for, regardless of the variation in price. But it can affect smaller traders. Also, the bigger traders, they need to turn over a large number of sales because they have a larger stand. They also have a more stock. That stock is a big chunk of money. And when someone swipes a locomotive, that can really push things over the edge. That can be the margin between breaking even and making a loss at a show. And you might think, oh, they've got several locos on their stand, they've got lots of money, they can afford it. Those locos, all the money's tied up in those locos. Until those locos are sold, that money is tied up. So bear in mind with the exhibitions that the traders, this is a big deal for them. not everybody has a shop. Quite a lot, in fact, don't. And quite a lot of specialists will be there, especially at the smaller shows, selling things that you won't be able to get in a model shop or somewhere else, like 3D printed items or items that are hand built, hand painted, hand finished, and other varieties of product. So when you decide, oh, do you know what? It's a bit dull. I don't really fancy going. I'd like an exhibition, but nah, I don't think I'll bother. Just remember that that show is a big event for the people involved. So that's rant number one. But the other great thing for me at the shows is the feedback. You get customers who come back who bought something from you 2 years ago, and sometimes they'll be so pleased they bring it with them to show you what they've done. And that is a glorious, glorious thing. And it makes it all worthwhile, to be honest. So that's one of the subjects I wanted to cover. Another subject, and I might breeze back into that one. I tend to sort of drift in and out of subjects, so bear with me. Another subject that springs to mind is, and this is a difficult one because I faced a lot of bullying at school. I've also had a lot of mental health issues. So as soon as you comment on this, you immediately have somebody attack you, which is fine. You can attack me all you want, I'll just ignore you. But there was a time I couldn't, and there are people who can't. And the other thing that I've noticed at exhibitions and in the community is that there are certain people who find the hobby not just enjoyable from the point of view of they like railways, or they like modelling, or they like creating, but also it's a safe place to be who they are. I've noticed there are a larger number of autistic people who are in the model railway community. In fact, one is quite close to me. And there are also a lot of trans people. And I've noticed a lot more women getting involved. And also a lot of people who are generally frail, and their mental relaxation, their mental health is aided by doing the modelling. And these people need to feel safe. Now, what I would say is this. I know from having autistic people in my life that quite often autistic people don't pick up on subtlety. They don't pick up on banter. They don't pick up on subtle jokes. They don't always pick up on things that are said tongue-in-cheek, and they sting and they hurt. And other things that I've noticed is that other people don't necessarily understand that someone has autism, and they will take offence at something an autistic person says because they're very direct, or they don't communicate in a way that this person feels comfortable with, and so they'll attack them. And I've noticed an awful lot of bullying taking place. And it starts off with somebody with an axe to grind who's either taken a dislike to somebody or has fallen out or accused somebody of something. Now, there are two ways of looking at this. One, is it a misunderstanding? Has something been said out of context or by somebody who didn't really realise what that sounded like to somebody else, which can happen with autistic people? Or has somebody deliberately taken something that someone said out of context with a view to creating mischief? Two very different things. Now, you could say in one occasion there can be a misunderstanding that leads to a misunderstanding, and then other people jump on the bandwagon and somebody gets bullied, and a misunderstanding can turn into a lot of hatred, a lot of nastiness, and someone can be bullied out of the thing that helps them get through life. That's unacceptable in its own right. Before you jump on the bandwagon, take a step back and have a think about, is the information absolutely right that you've been given? Is the information that you've been given about an event or comments or something in context? And has the person who's taken offence at the comments understood or misunderstood what's been said? I would say from personal experience that actual malice is a very small percentage. Maybe 10% of all these flare-ups is actually due to absolute malice. The rest is misunderstanding 90% of the time. And there's an awful lot of people who are jumping on the bandwagon and blowing a little misunderstanding into a big thing. Now, I'm not saying that in all cases this is the case. I'm just saying that maybe we ought to think a little bit before we jump. The other thing I've noticed is that there are certain people who seem to get a kick out of, or let's just say, their focus is on their image. So they could be a YouTuber, or they could be somebody in a club who likes the sound, who likes to feel important, who wants to have lots of attention. So they will create mischief. They will look for a fault with people's work. They will decide that they don't like a manufacturer and they will slag off that manufacturer, and then that manufacturer ends up with this person slagging off everything they do, and all the followers of this person, which is usually on YouTube, end up with a false impression of the manufacturer. And there are livelihoods at stake. It's very, very rare that there is a bad model these days. And usually, if there is a problem, a manufacturer will go out of their way to put it right. I'm not saying there are no problems. I'm not saying that everything is fantastic and that there aren't some models that are better than other models. But generally, there are very, very few crap models. So when you jump on, when somebody is trying to make a name for themselves by attacking a manufacturer and anything that they do, then that is what I call a clickbait merchant. And with some of these rows and a lot of the hurt that's been going around recently, you see the same names seem to be stirring the pot. And the same names seem to be jumping on the bandwagon and doing the bullying on behalf of the person who has started stirring the pot. They will start talking about arguments that are happening between manufacturer A or manufacturer B. They will start talking about clubs. They will talk about individual YouTubers. And they will hint and nag and poke at things And quite often you see two people who've been set against each other by the person stirring the pot really didn't really... The only reason they're upset is because this person has told them that something's been said about them, and it might not have been. And certain names keep coming up that are stirring the pot. And I know that people are starting to wise up to it, and I think it's a matter of time before those people are found out and they will be ignored. And you notice that I'm not talking about a specific incident. I'm not talking about a specific person, because there's an awful lot of hurt when you have somebody stirring the pot to get attention, and then people jump on the bandwagon to defend somebody who's been wronged, but they go at it in a very cruel manner, and they start digging, being offensive and nasty. That becomes a gang. That becomes bullying. That is unacceptable. So I'm asking everybody, have a think before you start leaving messages. Have a think before you start attacking people. And if somebody feels the need to go, if you find that there's a certain person and their name seems to crop up. So say there's somebody, manufacturer A or club A or exhibition A is accused of doing a certain thing, and everybody gets upset about it. So maybe, and I'm making this up, this isn't a story, okay? So imagine that a club has turned away somebody, okay? And Stirrer has decided to jump on the bandwagon and attack the club. 1, did the club really turn someone away? Or exhibition turn somebody away? 2, had that person, if they had been turned away, done something? Or maybe had that person who was turned away not been warned that somebody was there that was going to upset them, so the club quietly had a word and sort of advised them? What I'm saying is, if you don't know what has happened, if you aren't aware of the conversation or the post or the incident, if you weren't there, if you don't know what happened, don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't send hate mail. Don't send hate messages. If you haven't got something positive to say about someone, just ignore them. That's all you need to do. But when you jump on the bandwagon, when you start sending nasty messages, you become as bad as the person who instigated it or the person who did something wrong. You are no better than that. And I think that this mentality of jumping on the bandwagon and everyone diving in and attacking somebody has to stop. That's just my opinion. This hobby has a lot of people who find this their safe place. This is their place of relaxation. This is their place where they feel safe from a world that may not be kind to them. Some people have severe mental health issues. Some people have been close to nervous breakdowns, suicide, and you don't know who they are. You can't see it. You don't know them. Some people are autistic. They don't pick up on things. They say something and you might take offence at it because they're more direct than normal people, or they misunderstand something you say and it gets turned. The point is, if you don't know someone well enough to know their story, then really, should you make a comment? Should you be diving in? Should you be jumping on board? And should the way someone looks, the way they act, or should the way somebody looks, should their gender, should their transgender, should their race have anything to do with the hobby and whether they're accepted? No. So all I'm saying is think a little bit, right? I'm not a religious person. To me, this is the midwinter solstice coming up, and for me, it's much more of a sort of at the end of the year, take stock sort of time. But I do think there's a bit too much bullying and a just bit too much jumping to conclusions, jumping to reactions, and it all starts with someone trying to make a name for themselves, just like in the schoolyard. It's not the person who has the fight that usually starts the fight. It's not the two people who start the fight. It's the one who whispers in the ears that so-and-so said something about you. And I think that's the person we should be focusing on, not jumping on the bandwagon and joining in. Now, on a lighter note, a little bit of an update on my father, who, as everyone knows, after Alsager, had a fall in the kitchen that night, on the Sunday night. He is now much better. He's having a lie down now. And he's at the stage where he's frustrated that he isn't getting better faster. That's a good sign, because that means he's on the mend and it's just not going as fast as he wants. I reckon, and the doctors reckon, that by January he'll be almost back to his full self. But I'm going to be watching him to make sure he doesn't have any more falls, or if he is, I'm going to make sure that I'm around as best I can. And thank you to everybody who sent kind messages. On the product front, I would like to say that we've only got one J52 left at the price. I'm going to keep the price at 150 because my birthday's coming up, and I'm going to make it a bit of a thing for my birthday that we do a bit of deals. So I'm going to keep the J52, the one remaining J52, at 150. If you see this video, if you haven't got the J52, it's in BR unlined black. If you want that loco, I'm not going to keep it 150 forever. It's going to go back up to what it should. Look at that. Wet weather. Anyway, so the J52 is going to stay at that price temporarily, but you'll have to be fast. We've got E1 in one. We've got one E1 in Hartley Colliery livery. Beautiful lined black. Absolutely gorgeous livery. I thought I'd get that livery because it's a little bit different, and it could be anywhere in the country, in your colliery or private railway or heritage railway could have borrowed that loco and put it on. So therefore that is still in stock. If you haven't got one, get in touch. And that loco, and we've got one 16-inch hundlet left, and that is a Beatrice in preserved condition. If you haven't got one, if you're looking for one, better move fast, because we've sold a few locos recently. A lot of interest in our slate quarry range. and I'll be printing more of those. And yeah, quite very pleased with the response to those. There's some new products from Mark Holcroft, and they are coming on stream as we speak. So basically, there's a lot of reasons to go and look at the nWinds 3D models website. And you don't need to use the website to order. You can phone us up. The same with pre-ordering. Just give us a phone call. Say, I'd like to pre-order X Rapido Loco whilst the orders are still being taken, whilst it's not been closed, pre-order's not been closed. Can I pre-order XYZ? We'll take down your details and we will contact you when that loco's in stock. There is no charge for that service. So feel free to contact us, give us a phone call and ask us, and we will set aside a loco. We'll order it for you, we'll set it aside and let you know as soon as it arrives and charge you then and not before. So that's just a few things, but please be nice to everyone, right? You do not know everybody's story, okay? There's a few people who irritate the hell out of me, and I find it best just not to talk about them, right? Just like the person who is stirring up the shit at the moment. I think people are starting to wise up to them. It is very sad. It is unnecessary. And I think that they're going to come a cropper in terms of their YouTube. Their viewers are just going to drop off because their name keeps cropping up with all these little crises that keep happening. And that's not going to help them. And it's certainly not helping the people that they're singling out for attention. But they seem to be those who are one of those people who they stir up the pot. They whisper in your ear, so-and-so said this about you. And then they go to them and say, so-and-so said this about you. And then they have a big YouTube thing about two people having a row. Seems to me that there's a little bit of self-promotion and story generation going on. And it doesn't help anybody. And you're going to get found out. So just knock it on the head. I'd advise you to just knock it on the head. And as I'm not specifically talking about a person, then anyone who comes after me, good luck to you, because I just can't be arsed. I'll just ignore you, I'll blank you, I'll block you, so just don't bother. And think of the people who benefit from this hobby. Think about the clubs putting on the little exhibitions. Make a little effort to go along. Even if you don't buy anything, take a look. Take a leaflet, take a card from the small traders. It may be that when you're getting to the stage on your layout that you need something, that little trader will really benefit from you giving them a call at a later date. Hey up, that was a message from somebody. Anyhow, thank you for watching. I don't do these rant things very often, but I just thought in this particular case, there's been so much unpleasantness that's unnecessary, that's been flying around, that quite frankly, I just wanted to make sure that everybody just thinks a little bit. So with coming up to half an hour of your time, if I don't hear from anybody or see anybody, I wish you well, and we will try to do a live again in a couple of weeks. But thank you ever so much to everybody who sent messages about my father. Thank you to everybody who's popped by and taken a look at our website. There are lots of new products and it doesn't cost you a penny to look. And thank you ever so much to anybody who gives me a thumbs up and hits the bell, because that helps the algorithm. It tells people like us that there's something worth watching, and it really helps the channel. And as somebody who basically scrapes by, any help is gratefully received. So you will find our other YouTube channels and links to our Patreon and our Buy Me a Coffee in the description below. And thank you again for watching. Just be nice to each other. That's my message. Be nice to each other. And if you can't be nice to each other, just don't say anything.